Hello, and welcome back to this season of the Gaming Podcast for DigiPride 2024. I am your host, Meerbyte, and with me today is the wonderful Robin, and we're going to be diving into the most curiously captivating queer conversations on the web. Isn't that right, Robin?
It is absolutely right. Good evening. How are we?
We're going to have a good time today. I'm in good spirits. How are you?
Yes. I haven't started on the spirits just yet, but we're going well.
Great. Now, as a reminder, this season.
Sorry.
You know what? You didn't have to bring it to light, but I was just going to go straight past it. But here we are. Right. I do have to remind everybody that this season of the DigiPride podcast is, of course, tied into our DigiPride celebrations and presented by the wonderful folks over at Jyamma Games and sponsored by Devolver Digital and Wizards of the Coast. Now, to find out more for what's in store for the rest of this season and the rest of this DigiPride, you can head over to gamingmag.com/DigiPride. Yes. So, we're going to be talking about some really, really cool stuff today, Robin. Do you have any idea what we're talking about today? Of course you do. But
I think so, because I wrote the questions.
You wrote the script, yeah. The questions, yeah. Which I'm not sticking to, but that's fine. I'm improving. It's all good.
Go for it. Yes, and.
Yes, and. So we talk a lot about the games industry in the US and the UK, but that seems a little bit exclusionary sometimes. So we're going to be talking about what it's like to be LGBTQ in the European games industry today, aren't we, Robin?
We are indeed. We always seem to be talking a lot to our US friends, and we have a lot of wonderful people on from there. And we thought it'd be a really interesting opportunity to kind of reach back over and try and cancel Brexit, and we can talk about Brexit. Why not? Let's go the whole hog.
Yeah.
But no, I think obviously having a wonderful presenting partner such as Jyamma Games from Italia, we thought it'd be wonderful to kind of get back to our European roots as well.
Yes, I'm very excited about this conversation. I'm very excited to meet who we have on today.
We have. So I'm happy to welcome on. We have Roxanne from Jyamma Games, and we have Nathalie from the Godot Foundation.
Woo!
Hey!
Little claps, yay!
Little claps.
I still need that applause button. I said I was going to get it like 2 years ago, but like every single time it's just me going, yay! But you know what? That's fine. I feel like it's a staple for the podcast now. Welcome on into the podcast, and thank you so much for taking the time today. How is everybody doing?
Everything's fine.
Thank you for having us. Right?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
It is a bit sweaty in here, but that's about it.
Yeah, actually, that's quite. Let's start off a gaming podcast tradition. Talk about the weather for a second.
Absolutely, we do.
Very
it's cold.
Thing to do.
It's cold in the UK. It's hot
it's freezing here. So is it quite warm over where you all are at the moment?
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I wish I was there. Okay, so let's start things off with a quick overview of who you are, where you're based, and what it is that you do in the games industry. So let's just go down the line. Let's start with Nat. Tell us about yourself.
Alrighty. I'm based in Germany, which normally is not that hot. That's just very odd right now. I work for the Godot Foundation, which is based in the Netherlands, but we're all spread across Europe, so pretty much a very European team with some Canadian exceptions. And I do comms and communication, so like community and comms. There we go. That's the official title. So basically anything that goes out and anything that goes in is like something that I facilitate, which is social media and just everything else talky.
We love that. And of course, we're also joined by Roxanne today, or Rox for short.
Yeah.
Tell us about yourself.
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Roxanne, or Rox. I think I am going to be using Rox for the rest of the podcast because it's shorter, so it will be easier for everyone. Well, I work at Jyamma Games as a combat designer, and also the project I am working on with them is Notria, the last song. Well, I am mainly focusing in enemy design, enemy implementation in terms of combat. Let's say like take the correct police for animations, in terms of how each attack from the enemies is feeling. Also some part of preparing the aggressive side of the AI, prototyping some spells, etc. Well, I am very happy to be here, and also for the invitation, etc. It's like one of the first times I am going to be like a visible face, let's say. Normally I work in the shadows.
Well, thank you so much for putting yourself out there. We absolutely love that
welcome
here.
into the light.
Yeah, we actually got the chance to play in Altria, the last song recently. We went through a little bit of the demo. We're actually going to be taking another look at it soon with friend of the show, Dandy Floss, who's a massive Souls-like enjoyer. And I was thoroughly impressed. So fantastic work. Those enemies are very aggressive at times, and it's very fun. I watched Dandy like slam her head against the wall against that, like, I can't remember the name of the boss, but I think it was something Prince, like with the jester style mask. Yeah, and it was absolutely fantastic going through that whole Souls experience of just like over and over and over again, those repetitions until you learn the patterns and learn the moves, and it's a lot of fun.
The funniest thing was the show was ending like about 5 times.
Yeah, the show was supposed to end.
Right, that's
5
that for
times
the
in a row.
evening, and she was like, "No, I must go again."
Yeah, we have to beat it, and I'm like, okay, all right, cool. We're just gonna keep going. I'm muting myself, adding commentary, because apparently I was distracting her too much. Anyway.
Oh, no.
We're going to jump into our conversation today, which is the big question. And that's what it's like being LGBTQ in the European games industry. It's going to be quite an interesting talk.
Absolutely. And probably for context, it's best we start off. We obviously now know a bit about both our wonderful guests, but it would be good to know a bit more about your coming out stories. So that doesn't have to be your personal coming out stories. It's more like your
tell us your entire history right now.
Yeah,
your entire
exactly.
history.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Any bad
Let me
choices.
get my books.
Yeah. Just gonna scroll. Industry specific coming out stories. So anything kind of related to when you came out, what was the immediate reaction of your colleagues, the good, the bad, the ugly? Who wants to go first? I'll pick someone. Rox, you go first.
Okay, so I think I am picking Nat.
Oh, all right. I normally tend to be the one talking the most, so I try to not jump into too fast.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like I said, like I already was very publicly out when I joined the industry. So it's not like it was a surprise to anyone that I work with. However, it is very fun to show up at interviews sometimes, because they see your CV and they might or might not have a picture on it. It might or might not have a name on it. And it might or might not have your age on it. Funnily enough, that surprises people even more. And I just show up there and try to pick something that's business, but also queer enough to make you feel comfortable. I don't know if you know that feeling. It's just like, how far can I go today? And yeah, so like you kind of introduce yourself to the team with the expectation that like, oh yeah, that's the one that dresses funny, and that's the one that has like rainbow like glasses, and it's interesting to do that, right? I don't know. It is being visible and introducing yourself as the visible one makes a bit of sense. Like I work as a community manager, right? So like people are going to see me, and hey, makes it easier to remember if I have green hair.
Honestly, I honestly feel like that takes tremendous cojones just to like put yourself out there in that fashion, especially when going into like trying to get work like that. So yeah, and is the reaction usually positive, or like?
Depends on where you want to work at. In the games industry, it's rather okay, because I'm not the only one with colored hair. It doesn't have to mean anything other than colored hair. I tried working outside for a little bit, and that was surprisingly hard. Well, like I also have like a background in events, right? So like I know how to like handle my backstage, but apparently my piercings or my looks don't fit in with what events are supposed to look like. So it's one of those things where you might get hired because, oh yeah, this is gonna make the team so much more diverse. Wait, you don't fit in here. I don't like your clothing. It's like you should have known this. Like I introduced myself to you as exactly that, but somehow, like you will have those frictions sometimes. But in the games industry themselves, like it's more like okay, yeah, well, we all walk around in hoodies at the end of the day. right?
Oh, indeed. It's so odd that you say that as well. Like, you don't fit into events. Like every event I've ever been to has got like people like tatted up or with piercings of all kinds, and it's just a very very odd thing to say. Unless these are just like mostly this like the most businessy of business CEO events, which
Mixture of everything, right? It's just that like for some reason people expect you to be versatile, and if you're not versatile, you can't do event management or something. I don't know.
They do realize that piercings come out, don't they? You know, like they.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I had invisible ones in to begin with, but meh.
Yeah. Interesting.
There we go.
Uh,
Rox, what's
gonna say-
your... Yes,
Okay.
let's move on to Rox.
Okay, so for my side it's a bit different because when I joined the video games industry, well, I was out as bisexual and I was already with my boyfriend. But the main thing here is that during my first job, that was when I was coming out like from considering myself as cis male to non-binary. So it was during this part, during this time, I have been like out from the closet like for this as non-binary like 1 year ago, more or less. So it hasn't been like that long time to experiment the, let's say, the good and the bad, because for now it has been mostly the good, let's say. In my previous, well, there was one curious thing from my previous work, because I was working in an outsourcing company. So I came out with my colleagues from that company and from my colleagues from the other company. Well, I was working for outsourcing for Lords of the Fallen in the past. So that was like the main thing why in Jyamma they really look at my profile when joining.
Well, I hope that like during that process that there were like immediately like positive responses there. How was your experience around that? Yeah.
Okay, it has been in both. It was super positive. I didn't have like any bad treatment because of that. Let's say that there was one funny thing around this. There was like one funny one person that was going that was her last day in the office, and there was a funny interaction.
Like, are we talking fun or fun like this is fun?
I mean, it became a meme.
Okay,
all
right.
Not
meme worthy. We'll leave it at that. So yeah.
But yeah, in Jyamma it was super fine. It's true that I was only out from the closet as a non-binary during 3 months when I joined Jyamma. So in Jyamma Games, during the selection process, I presented myself with my legal name, which is my dead name, to avoid any kind of problems. And when I joined Jyamma, like 1 or 2 weeks after that, I started placing rocks in everything. And Stoyan, our game director, asked me, and everything was super fine. There was no problem regarding this.
I say that. How did you feel going into that though? Because it's got to be incredibly scary sometimes, especially in like I don't want to say a corporate environment, but in an environment where you're working that you don't necessarily know how the people around you are gonna react. Were there trepidations there to not speak on it, or?
There were all other queer people in the office, so that make everything easier.
Good.
It helps when you're not the first. Yep.
Literally, or first or the only. Like it's.
Yep.
See, it suddenly becomes a lot easier until you realize the other person is horrible, and then you kind of wish you were the only one. But until then, it's good.
From experience, yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's good it's good that somebody else almost has broken the ice for you.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I went on from myself, but seeing seeing like the environment was going to be safe, it was like, okay, let's do this. And yeah, when I lose the fear of dressing like this, dressing with more female clothing, I tried it and everything went super fine. There were no rejections, there were no bad words, there were nothing. So yeah, I think it was like okay. My main fear was the path that I had to walk to get the public transport and and suffer a bad episode during that path, but it didn't happen. So.
See, that's so interesting as well, because that's like so antithetical to what people assume like the industry is going to be like and what gamers are. The very vocal ones are like in general. So let's talk about challenges, because obviously that was one challenge that you faced, was garnering that courage first of all to come out. But for both of you, what would you say your biggest challenges have been in the industry, being LGBTQIA plus individuals?
I mean, one of them ties in with what we just talked about, like being the first. I am the first woman on payroll here. I've also have been the first queer person in the office. I have been the first visibly queer person on accounts for different companies, and it's always an interesting like moment when there's a group picture of you and it gets posted and people see you for the first time. They just don't have that, like the community manager, the silent one in the background that makes funny jokes, and all of a sudden there's a picture, and sometimes that picture doesn't match what people imagined. Right? Like it's that thing where like for some reason when I show up somewhere just underneath like the official name, it's gonna be like, hey dude, how you doing? How's it going, Godot guy? And then they see a picture and it doesn't match.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is something that causes like constant frustration to me.
So we have a cat sighting on the podcast at the moment.
Yes.
My void is after my Lego.
It's a very usual occurrence on the podcast that cats tend to interrupt it. So apologies for that. No, audio listeners, you're missing out. So
yes.
Yeah. Sorry, but though you were saying, yeah, that can be quite difficult to be the first and to be alone. In that, like, to be isolated like that. I can just imagine like that, like a company gathering, and there's just like a picture of the most boring people you'll ever see, and then there's just you there, like bright as anything.
That has happened more than once, and I still don't know how to feel about it. Right? It's like one of those things where, like, sure, I dress like this because I like the way it looks, and I don't mind talking about it, but sometimes always sticking out of the crowd also feels a bit odd. Right? And I mean, especially with the games industry, like it used to be a very male dominated space, right? So that's changing slowly. But instead of like changing slowly, I feel like I'm just always like a very visible cut in what used to be and what is now. And that can feel strange. But like strange, right? Not per se bad, especially because most of the time I find some solace in being the person that then onboards other people. And for them, it's a lot easier because look, the talky community person is also like me, right? Like, so I take a lot of like pride in just making sure that everyone that comes after me doesn't have that experience anymore.
That's great for you to be putting in that work. Do you feel like there's like a pressure to, or at least in your prior roles, or maybe not necessarily this role, but would you say that there has been like a pressure to conform in the past for you?
I tend to pick the jobs that don't make me do that, right? Like that one of the reasons why I show up to offices, to interviews this way I am and not just dressed down is exactly that. Because if they hire me like knowing that I am this person, then they have to deal with me being this person. And that was actually the quite like when I was thinking about challenges was the first thing, right, that like came to me is like the having boundaries and having certain things you will not change about yourself. I feel like that's a constant challenge. Like wanting to keep my hair, even though events told me like it would be easier if I didn't. Like, and having that kind of thing where like, oh yeah, I'm the funny person, fine, but like I still deserve some respect. And you know,
definitely, it could be hard, like touting that line as well, where you're like, you know, I want to be like likable and funny, but you also want people to like give you that respect you deserve, like just because. You know, you can be entertaining, or I don't even want to say like the archetype of like, you know, the I don't even want to say the class clown, but like that sort of like vibe.
I say I'm a professional joker because of the hair color.
I
still want to be like have that respect. Yeah,
absolutely. I was literally about to say the same thing, which was about kind of there's a real difference between self-expression, i.e. the way that you want to present yourself, but just because you got some dyed hair or just because you got some extra piercings or something, like the kind of all the default then assumption that you're the sort of the clown is kind of it's difficult to then be taken seriously. But I think you made a really fair point, which is going into these companies, taking these jobs and presenting don't hide who you are when you go for interviews, because you're kind of locking yourself into that's who you have to be then. Like, go as you wish to present yourself, because if they say no, you don't want to work there anyway. So you kind of saved yourself a problem. You're using it almost as a filter backwards.
I mean, yeah, it's the same way when I do like screeners, for example, for moderators. The first question is going to be, what are your pronouns? And if I get a weird answer to that, then that's that handled, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just by being yourself, you can use that as a filter.
Yeah, that's a wonderful filter to use, to be fair. Now, what about yourself, Rox? What would you say your biggest challenge has been in the industry so far as a queer person?
Okay, so I would say that one of the I would say that there haven't been that much, but one of them for sure has been like when I was like out of the egg but not out of the closet. Okay, so that time that was a really short time. That was the time like I was like, okay, let's take a look in the office if it was safe or not, etc. Because I wanted that time to be like the fastest as possible, because thinking about that was really affecting me. I was thinking about a lot of things for myself. It was like overthinking everything, and when that overthinking from your for yourself, it's coming when you don't want it to come, which is like when you want to work and perform your best and finish your work. It's like, okay, if I continue like this, my performance and my objectives are going to be like lower and lower and lower and lower, and the people is not going to be like happy with my work if I continue like that. So let's break the ice as soon as possible. I would say that was like one of the most. Yeah, maybe when something happens for me to be like this in my personal life, and this creates me like thinking bad things in general, having bad thoughts.
Those intrusive thoughts, I get
intrusive thoughts when they come. When I am working, that's the worst, because it's like okay, I need to stay focused. I need to continue with this. I need to finish this task. We are in a hurry, and it's like my mind trolling myself.
I feel like they also always come at exactly the times where you don't want them, right? Like whenever you're the most stressed, that's when the imposter syndrome kicks in. And it's not like everyone else is already telling you that. Like it's just your own brain on top of everyone. Like, that can be like the last thing that kicks you over.
It makes you see ghosts as well, because you start to sort of doubt yourself. So you're automatically sort of doubting, like, what is everyone else thinking of me? No one's thinking anything of you bad. Like, nobody's even noticing that you're in your little funk. Like, it's just, but you're sort of seeing it as some catastrophe and thinking everyone's now thinks you're a complete idiot and all that sort of stuff.
No, Robin, but everybody secretly hates me. That's the point.
You see, like, secretly is one thing, but then work in public. Like, I just have to open my phone to see hate if I wanted to. So, like, my brain has to work double time.
True.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Rox.
I mean, I was going to say, like, this is the moments where I truly appreciate that my work is like not like to be like the front face to the public, because for sure it's like I mean, I know if I came into all the storm of rainstorm of hate from Twitter and haters from Enotria or something like that, and I was like one of the public faces, and I am a queer person, and they just start thinking bad things regarding the game. Oh, the game is like that because they heard this non-binary person that for sure doesn't know about Actune games, not like me. If that happened, I would be like, my soundtrack will be Very Delight from the Maker 5. And I will be in a mode like, I am the storm that is approaching.
Very.
That's interesting. Like, because I was gonna say there is that very real like fear there as well, not necessarily of the industry itself, but of the players. But we'll circle back to that, because it's interesting how you both talk about your experiences, and like how it seems that like company culture is like really important, because like if you have like a space that's actually has queer people in there already and is very accepting and like has that culture in that space where being queer is just normalized, it feels like you get on a lot better than if that wasn't there, I'm assuming.
I mean, it's always being yourself means that you don't need to waste brain power on trying to mask, which means I can actually use it on my work. It's the same thing with being neurodiverse,
Sure.
right? Like if I don't have to work to not be ADHD, it helps because, you know, I can actually focus that energy somewhere else instead of trying to fit in.
Yeah.
You're talking, obviously, Mia, you sort of mentioned a good thing. Rox, are you okay? I noticed your light seems to have failed on you.
My lights just broke.
Oh no.
They broke on camera, oh my god.
Yeah, that's the first time interview curse. That's
exactly.
Very common.
We can keep you look. That's
Maybe
fine.
I can do something with this.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it just got very late all of a sudden in over
The
there.
worst thing is that now my makeup is clearly shown to the public.
I mean, like I said, it's sweaty over here as well. You'll be fine.
It's all good.
Mia started to mention, and it was obviously a good point, about how we all feel better if our companies support us. So have there been any kind of examples, or how has the industry, and I'm talking about the industry, not just your company, but the games industry as a whole, how have they supported you? How has the industry supported you? Have there been any kind of standout moments, both in the company, but also maybe the wider European games industry of kind of like, yeah, I feel really supported. This is really cool.
I mean, for me, it's I said it before, right? Like I went into community management after I watched a panel with you two on it, but also some other queer people, and I was like, wait, that corner does not only do what I want to do, but those people look like me. Those people are who I am, and like all of a sudden I'm not alone anymore. Like even if I am the only one at the company, if I look up community manager on Twitter, I am by far not the only one. And it's really nice to connect with those. Like we have our own little servers and like friends you make when you actually go to conferences, and all of a sudden like all that pain is shared.
Yeah.
And like we have mentoring, and we have like it is a thing that kind of intertwines with like all the other things, right? Like being a woman in games is also a different thing. And having someone that has been through the same thing before, even if it's at a different company, even if it's far away from you, and you can just write them, that already is a big help. Right? And then being on stage and being able to talk about it and knowing that some other people might see that and then feel less alone, like being able to forward the favor, that is really nice.
Do you feel like that's coming primarily from like other queer people within the industry?
It is a thing where we still support each other more than the industry itself. It's one of those things where people don't think there's a problem, so they don't do anything sometimes. Like I feel like it's not even malicious. It's just the kind of thing that I wish we would get away from the person that is queer being also the person that has to make sure that this company is now queer friendly. That's just like telling the women to go hire more women. Like, I feel like at the moment, we kind of just put that burden on the first queer person in the office, and they have to, like, support themselves with others. But, you know, that is one of those things where I feel like, you know, we have consultancies. People get paid for that, not as a just second thing to your main job. And then, like, that is a thing still.
I feel like it's definitely, and it's like a tale of all those times, like people with inherent privilege, like placing themselves outside of that space and trying to realize what it's like for other people, you know, and actually empathizing with them. And that can be very difficult if they just don't interact with them at all. Like how many companies or just have no queer people in them, and it's never come up that it's a potential problem because they've never had to think about it. And because it just doesn't cross their mind. But yeah, we want to see more of that support. We want to see more of those highlights. Rox, what about yourself? Did you have anything that you wanted to touch upon?
Okay, so for my side, like this is like not the best topic for me because it's like during since I was out of the closet, luckily I have been like hired. So yeah, it's quite difficult also because like my biggest come out was like only 1 year ago, so I haven't experienced too much about this. But I know that there are some kind of events or programs or something like these things in Spain. But yeah, in general, sadly, I think this is not one of the topics I can apport that much. I think one positive thing could be like in Spain. I think it's one of the most affected countries for LGBT people in general. So I think that's also a positive point. Let's say from Spanish industry is very inclusive, I would say. I mean, there is no like 100% of Spanish companies are going to be safe for LGBTQ people in video games industry, etc. But yeah, definitely a huge amount of them, I think they are very safe places, which is a good point. But yeah, I think that's all the info I can give in this point.
That's interesting that you touched upon that actually, because like it ties into something that we wanted to talk about, where like location in Europe can essentially like determine how much of a good time you're gonna have in the industry, especially like with some countries being far more conservative than others. Do you commonly see that, and like say you had a dream location where you would want to work, where would that be? Like who's the best? Who's championing like that right now?
I mean,
remote work will win this, right? Just for the obvious reason that you can have the most international team and, you know, stay where you are, grow up, and still work with people from wherever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But
yeah,
like
I mean,
the other thing is that like we are still in Europe, right? Like I always fret complaining about the fact that like I walk outside in Munich and sometimes there's some snobby people that will like, you know, frown at me. Like I know how privileged that is to be my only problem. Like that I probably will have to deal with the grandma being a little bit unhappy, spitting on the floor, that kind of stuff, but like no one actually like attacking me over this, and that I have rights that are you know, protected in the country. So like I feel like that is one of those things where looking at the laws, I am not the right person to compare them between the countries, but I've heard from people and from friends in different places that they move because of this, right? This is one of the biggest reasons for people to move out of countries and to move somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that sorry, we're
I was just gonna say that just to relate, like even here in the UK, like we technically are part of Europe, not even though we're no longer in the EU, but like even here, like recently, like there like a law was changed within the space of like 2 hours where like trans kids can't get access to puberty blockers even privately anymore. It's like at what point, like in this particular country, you would think this has been great for a really long time, then all of a sudden it switches. So you want to make sure that you have those opportunities to take care of yourself, and you want to be in countries that are looking out for you. So I can totally see why like somebody would feel the urge to like, even like I was thinking when I heard about that news, like, do I have to move somewhere else now? Like I know that doesn't affect me, but what stops people from like just changing stuff around as places get more conservative? And that's definitely a worry. Yeah,
but that has been the kind of the one of the downsides of Brexit, just to kind of not get too political too quickly, is the fact that in Europe you can move, you can just go, I'm going to go and live in Spain today, and it's kind of like we can't do that anymore. We lost that, hooray. So it kind of is, you kind of are sort of tied into that. But Rox, you actually are a good example, because you live in Spain but work for an Italian games company. And Jyammer, I know when we were speaking to Eduardo at Jyammer, when we were kind of first having all these wonderful conversations, Italy is, for the kind of the country of love and romance and everything else, is actually not particularly hot on LGBTQ related issues. And Jyammer was very keen to make sure from the get-go, and it is really great to see, and obviously Rox, you're living that experience, that one of now the biggest studios in Italy is kind of very much living the sort of pro-diversity, pro-equality kind of approach, and really being the flag bearer for that in a country where it's a little bit but I think it's really interesting still looking at kind of live in Spain, work for an Italian games company, the wonders of remote working. But just really quick shout out to Jyammer for sort of pushing ahead and really flying a proud rainbow flag over the country of Italy.
And this is why the world is worse when they force you to come into the office. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, like, one of those things is that we all do very online work as well. Like, if I sit at a desk in a company or if I sit at a desk here at home, I don't know the difference at this point. I do feel like, though, that, like, this is another thing the industry can do, right? Is, like, let people do these things publicly. Like, let them sponsor something like this. Because that is also a sign of support, right?
We're always available for a sponsorship.
Yeah, see, the market are doing something properly.
Exactly.
But yeah, it is one of those things, right? Like, even if you can't do something yourself, aside from hiring queer people, you can also support queer initiatives.
Absolutely. It's a great example, and obviously not just banging our own drum, but it really is, and I'm thrilled every single time we get to have these conversations that are sponsored by wonderful companies, including new entrants to the market like Jyammer that knew they had a big game coming out, wanted to really make a statement about it, and so immediately kind of came to us of like, we want to make sure this is sort of all out there, and we're really proud of that. So props to everybody involved, and you can absolutely throw many coins Game Magazine's way at any time. I am always available. But actually, Nat, you really did sort of start to hit on something, and that is basically what more could the industry be doing to support its LGBTQ workers? And again, company and national and international, advocating, as you say, sponsoring, as you say, is really important. But yeah, I'd just love to know if in your experiences, what more do you feel like could be done, or what would you want done, I suppose?
So I mean, there's a bunch, right?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, Nat, because like you've talked about your trepidation with like how specific people, and I won't call them fans, but specific tangents of gamers treat you, or just treat queerness in the industry in general. Is there anything you think that the industry could do to make you feel safer in that sense?
I mean, like, the thing is that because I'm so unhappy with what's happening, I tend to just take things into my own hand, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing that, like, the like I said earlier, when the burden is put on the one queer person to suddenly also do queer advocacy, I kind of took that and was like, okay, I'm going to make it my job so I don't feel like it's forced upon me. I'm just going to voluntarily do this. But it is one of those things where if all of us talked about things as if they were normal, then they wouldn't be questioned. But because we don't do that, it's all of a sudden like, why does company A do this? Company B doesn't do that. And like, if we just stick together and all agree that, like, you know, things like pride are just a thing that not going to be questioned, that we're not going to allow people to be like, yeah, I don't want that in my games. If we could just stick together there, that could already help, and not just like bow to whichever things is most popular, which is why one year all of a sudden everyone has a pride flag, the next year only half of them, because it's not as financially interesting anymore to do that. You really see which ones cared about the accuracy part and which ones just went with the flow. And that kind of stuff can be maddening.
It is so frustrating I've seen the last couple of years with the rise in hate amongst the LGBTQI plus community, with companies just folding under that pressure and just like pulling any kind of support. And like, that is super frustrating, and God, I hope that changes back, and that there is that realization that maybe stand behind the principles that you set out to begin with, even when the going gets tough. But,
there's a statistic knocking around that I've been quoting a little bit recently in some business stuff. But if you're a company that accepts the LGBTQ boycott or doesn't do anything because you're fearing the boycott, you gain for that one customer that supports you because you're boycotting LGBTQ issues, you're losing 1.8 customers because you're boycotting LGBTQ issues. So it's
I
kind
have a
of
fun number there too.
yeah,
like we changed the
2
logo.
to 1 basically.
We changed the logo, and I was expecting a fall in numbers. However, no, it didn't happen. We kind of recovered from the cut down from the people that I had to block for whatever reason within a day, and now we're like way above what we had. There are more people supporting this than the ones.
It is. It's true, and it's like 70% of the kind of like the non-LGBTQ population still support LGBTQ rights. This whole thing about boycotting something and it's companies shit in the bed. I'm sorry, they just see one problem, they see one little corner of the internet, and sort of fold over it, and it's like, no, there's still the vast majority of people are perfectly happy to accept and move forward with this. And I think, to Mia's point, like, it's about being more vocal, it's about being more present, and I think it's also still about pushing back a little bit. It's about educating people that's actually people that play video games active in the this is any stat I've got to hand, which is in the US. It's about 11% of gamers in the US identify as LGBTQ. 1% of games contain LGBTQ themes. So that's not representative.
Yeah,
it's
and
not.
It's not worth getting angry about.
It's nowhere near. No, because TV, according to the GLAD report, TV is about 20%, films about 18%, games is 1%. We're nowhere near ramming it down your throats. I love the fact they always pick that phrase, which sounds incredibly sexual. And it's kind of like, it's just, yeah, that's my little thing.
Like,
but no, more advocacy, more fighting back, more.
It's like the only thing I can see there, like just because I was like, yeah, it's nice to like do all of these things. The one reason I see people hesitate that I can understand is that you have no one to handle what happens if you do.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
no,
it's that thing, if you have a single social media manager and they don't feel ready to handle the hate, that can be part of the discussion. It is one of those like fallacies, right? Like if everyone did it, it wouldn't be a problem to begin with, because then it would be normal. But you also need to make sure that the employees that are there and that are the ones dealing with that hate and moderating, that you support them, right?
It's even a couple of steps before that. It's actually being prepared to go into it with good advice, good consultation, good agency support, whatever it is you need as a company to prepare the community teams, the marketing teams, the chief execs, the whoever else is, the financiers, whatever. Like, if you're going to do it, commit to it and go into it with both boots and prepare for all of these things, because then yes, the inevitable shouting is going to happen. But if you just kind of have the ability to shut it down with some well-placed shady tweets or something, then so be it.
Yeah. I want to come back to this just because we've kind of like skipped forward a little bit, because I want to hear from Rox before we move on to talking about hate and how to deal with that. Obviously, like, what do you think that I completely forgot what the question was before, but it's what do you think the industry could do more?
What could the industry be doing more?
Yeah. To support you and other LGBTQ games workers.
I mean, you already made really good points. I mean, I agree with most of them, if not all.
Most.
Yeah.
Most.
No,
now it's interesting.
Okay, but maybe if there is something I can add, this is something like, for me, it's like something that is very cheap to do, let's say. And it's like, okay, when you have to present to a company or apply for a company for a new role, there are companies that, okay, they have the normal form apply and that's all. But there is, in some cases, I have seen like they can ask you if, as an optional question, if you have like another name that you want to be treated, if you have a legal name and this kind of name, if you have any kind of pronoun. So for that side, it's like, I would really love to see more companies doing that, because I mean, for legal reasons, and because my legal name is my dead name, if this is not a reason I have to present myself in my CV, in my cover letter, etc., in any kind of case with my dead name, and clarify, like, just after telling my dead name in my in a cover letter or something, like, but I prefer to be called like this. are the same for my LinkedIn profile,
Yeah.
etc.
Honestly, you've hit on
So
something very, very like apt there, considering like that could just be spread across the whole of like of the corporate world. It's like you have your legal name and you have your chosen name. And I feel like
yeah,
that you hit the nail on the head there. That should definitely be normalized because there are so many countries all across Europe, our own included, where it's still very difficult to change your name
yeah,
legally. Or, for instance, I changed my name by deed poll in the UK, but it was difficult for me. Well, it wasn't difficult for me to go through that process, but a friend of mine did the exact same thing, and yet for some reason, and I think it's just because it was in recent years, I got my passport changed fine like 5 years ago, 7 years ago. Their passport, their name on their passport, they had to resubmit it 3 different
mhm,
times and go down to like visit the offices in order to get it sorted out to actually have it updated with their current name. So all of these processes can, depending on where you are and depending on the
mhm,
time frame as well, and how people are interacting with the LGBTQI community, can be so difficult. And
yeah,
just having that normalization of there of saying, okay, your legal name might not be the name that you're going by. I think you're right, would be so powerful and like offer so much support to people. I think that's a great point.
yeah.
Hmm
And
And
there's
it's
something like,
yeah.
oh yeah,
Sorry,
feel free.
continue.
I was just
Oh,
saying that like sometimes you can play into that a bit more even as someone that will use their legal name at work. Like it's one of those things where it's way more normalized. Like you need to help normalize it, even if you are not the one that
hmm
needs this like thing, right? So like I my full name is Natalie, right? I introduce myself as Nat because that makes me more comfortable. That makes people question it and that makes people ask the same silly questions like why and whatever. But by just enduring that as the person that can handle this, it becomes more normal. And I introduce myself to being like, how do you want to be called? Like just
Yeah.
giving that hand and
Mhm.
showing that behavior that you want so they mirror you can also be helping.
yeah,
It's
definitely.
so interesting how people can like get on board with like nicknames or
Mm-hmm.
another name if you're say like a cis person, but as soon as you're queer it becomes a massive deal for some
Mhm.
reason. Like, yeah, it's odd. Yeah, that's Greg, but he doesn't go by Greg, he goes by Greg Z or
That's
Little
Richard, but
Frank.
you all call him
Yeah,
Dick, right? It's one
yeah,
of those things where
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
like
And
if people don't complain about that, you have to call it out, right? Like if they don't complain
Hmm
about me having a nickname, then don't they dare ever say anything to my trans colleague, right? Like that's kind of the reason why like this is like where we need to stick together, and where if you just introduce yourself to be like this is my pronouns and this is how what I want to be called, it just normalize it more so it doesn't have to happen for this one employee, we just do it for all of them, just out of the bank.
I feel like there needs to be some kind of group out there which is like pushing to create an industry standard on how to like navigate just like being queer within spaces, and that can like advocate to companies on like queer people's behalf, or just like diversity. Like there's going to be companies out there that are all about like diversity and talking about that, but I feel like that's something they need to hit on as well if they're not already, is like saying, yo, here's how you treat people, and it's not that big of a deal. Just let them go by whatever name. Don't be a dick about it. I feel like sometimes you need to break it down into like a child level storybook. Just by giving examples of like, this is very normal. It's also very normal in this situation, because sometimes just people just don't get it, and it's so weird that they don't get it.
yeah.
But yeah, coming back around to that, annoyingly, the hate becoming more common against the queer community in recent years. How would you yourself say you've navigated that on a personal level, and how is on an industry level the companies that you've worked for are navigating that? How do you feel that they're navigating that?
That is a loaded question. And like my my
Let's go
immediate
to the
answer,
community manager.
Yeah.
yeah, like the immediate answer is always humor, and that is sad in its own
Mhm.
right. But like most of the time, trying to realize that this is something silly happening on the internet, and not the majority of people, like trying to constantly put that into perspective, right? That like I'm interacting with
Mhm.
so many positive people during this time, and then there is this one loud, noisy person that's just the same as the voice in the back of my head that tends to be
Mm.
annoying. That doesn't mean they are true, right?
Yeah.
But like, so this is one of those things, and then trying to like have fun and enjoy what is positive, even though there are negatives. Enjoy the fact that I found a company that lets me to do something for Pride, and yeah, that will have some backlash, but hey, the company has my back. Like, that is something I wanted to say earlier. Like, it's one thing to say, hey, you're the queer person, go do this, and then let me leave, like, let me alone, right? And then there's the other thing of having my back. And
Yeah.
when people push back, standing there
Yeah.
with me, and
Yeah.
not just having like, oh, that's the queer community manager doing nonsense. No, this is the entire company together putting a statement out, right? Like, these kind of things can make immensely of a difference, because you're suddenly not alone anymore, even though you might be the only queer person or you might be the one leading charge, but you do have people that are standing with you, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I feel like it's something interesting. Like, you feel like certain companies, like, if they get themselves ahead of everything, and I feel like this is also with content in games as well. Like, if you have like a game that's been ongoing for ages, and then you just insert a queer character, that audience that you've developed over time is going to have like a huge contingent of, for lack of a better word, absolute dicks in it. And that might be harder. But if you're upfront and like you include queer characters from the get-go, you are diverse from the get-go, that kind of community is either naturally not going to be there, or just going to accept it. So when you finally, like, when you do another Pride post, or when you know, out like, say, like for Valorant, for instance, whenever they introduce, or Apex, whenever they introduce a queer character now, there's like no real like insanity over it, because like it's a very standard thing in Apex. I've had queer characters from the beginning, and I feel like that's the same with just showing your support of the queer community. If you're there doing it from the beginning, and it's something that's part of your company culture, like, all of those asshats aren't necessarily going to show up in the same way that they would have if you have just been not saying anything and then suddenly show up. For instance, something I noted with Digital Extremes, who make Warframe recently. They're a Canadian studio. They've always been very vocal about supporting the queer community, and they've done it for like the last 5 or 6 years at this point. And like, when they put out their posts, there was still hate there, but it's not in nearly the same degree as I've seen on like other posts. So yeah, that's just an observation that I've seen from how companies should go about this. It's like, just stand by your values, you know?
Yeah.
And reiterate them, not just in Pride Month, but like generally, right?
All year round. Yeah.
All year round.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, regarding hate, is like, oof. It's like, I mean, when you work remotely, and it's like, okay, if you want to see something around because about some new, or you have a second tab open apart from Unreal, and that tab is Twitter, and it's super polarized, and it's like, oh, this game is receiving boycott because LGBTQ, because now the new thing to criticize is, oh, this game has collaborated with Sweet Baby, so we have to smash this game and make this company be ruined, and fuck off with all the layoffs. And well, yeah, let's have like helpful media, right? No, to be honest, it's like, I mean, I am very afraid because of this kind of hate, for sure. But then it's like, okay, if I think about myself, it's like, okay, since I have been like going with this in the street, etc., I haven't received any kind of comments, bad looks, or at least I didn't notice about the bad looks, which is a better way to film this. But yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, I am afraid of, your game has queer devs, so we are going to boycott, etc. Especially when the company is small, when it's the first project, or if it's not because of the sexuality or the gender identity from an employee, it's because we are including this character in the game. I mean, it's like, okay, if I had like a super AAA reputation, it's like, okay, I can include it and people will still play the game if it is good. I mean, Spider-Man 2 is still one of the best games from the last year, despite that comment, despite that moment they had with a non-binary character during 30 seconds.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, I feel, and this is just something that I have to reiterate time and time again, and like I'm very like vocal about this. I think I even told Robin, it's like hate is going to come no matter what. So I feel like developers and publishers shouldn't be fearful of that, because at the end of the day, I don't think the impact that I don't think it's actually going to like make or break your video game. It's going to be a pain in the ass to deal with, but a lot of the time, these people don't know what they're talking about. They literally spread false information. I mean, you had recently Nintendo confirming that, or at least in the new Paper Mario game, that Vivian is a trans character, for instance, which puts it back to the same way it was when the Japanese release originally came out in 2004, I think? In the 2000s, anyway. And they went crazy over that, and they were saying, like, completely denying that there is a trans character. They were saying, "Yo, it's gone woke" or whatever, and like that. No, that's what it was originally.
Literally.
That was censored originally. Now they've put it right.
Yep.
And they're still up in arms about it. Like, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just bigotry from small-minded people who don't know what they're talking about, and are they really the people that you want to be getting your dollars off anyway? Because, like, if you appeal to them, you cultivate it, right? Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly that. And, like, as the community manager, right, like, the amount of stuff that I have to see because someone has to moderate this, there's a reason I still do it, right? There's a reason I hide this, so queer people that just find our stuff don't see the hate unmoderated. Like, that is one of the biggest things where I don't like this entire, like, don't feed the haters, like, don't feed the trolls approach to community management, because that's often means don't say anything at all.
Yeah,
and that is not what
and that lets it fester, doesn't it? Yeah,
exactly. It lets it fester, and it makes queer people wonder where you actually stand. Like, yeah, you're doing one thing, but you're not saying anything about this. Yeah, you're doing one thing, but you don't delete like the hate underneath the post, so I can't interact with them in good faith because I don't want to see that.
Literally about to say, it's not so much about what you say, it's about how you respond. Like, the best thing you can do is, if you are releasing a game with queer characters, get out again. It's about planning. What are we going to say about this? And nothing is not the right answer, because
how can we make sure that the queer people that want to play the game feel like
that's it?
The positive thing is highlighted, and not the, oh, we're sorry about releasing a queer game, but like here does it anyway. Like, you need to
and you
make it
see
a selling
so
point.
many. Absolutely, but again, other people, the wider community, will respond positively to that, because it's been proven that if you're just a good company, if you're a nice company, you're gonna get people buying your stuff. Like, it's really straightforward.
And sorry, go ahead, Rox.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year demonstrated like a lot that point, because I mean, we already know, we all know what was the most awarded game from last year, and literally all the main characters are bisexual.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Just because I feel like the conversation's been hijacked a little bit by this part of it, but I will add on to it at the end. Something positive here is that I'll give you an anecdote. Like, the other day, I put out a post that went semi-viral about like just getting people. It was like a trend of like saying something and then getting people to respond with a certain thing. So I was literally trying to get people to say trans rights, and we got. I think I ended up getting like definitely over 1,000 responses to that, all basically saying like trans rights. The amount of hate that I got, I mean, it wasn't nothing. There are haters there, especially when like accounts get onto that and they retweet it. But at the same time, I was moderating that myself, and my response afterwards was like, I wasn't going to interact with them. What I was going to do though was hide their replies and block them so they couldn't see anything more. And it was just so gratifying to go into that post and just scroll down and just see a sea of just trans rights, trans rights, trans rights, trans rights. So there are so many more people who are, and this is not just like queer people. This is like cis people that I know in the industry as well. A lot of like really, really cool people who are standing behind like the queer community, that are there for them. There are so many more in support of queer people than there are against it, and that's definitely something that the industry needs to remember. That's the main thing. Because it's going to make you more money at the end of the day. Like, just stand up for your art.
Which is sad that it has to be an argument, but in the end, all the bogus arguments about we know people are going to buy this are kind of bogus. You know?
Yeah, they weren't going to buy it in the first place. Like, it's literally a trend for them to jump off on. And like, I don't know what this is, but I'm just going to say I'm not going to buy it because it features a queer person. Like, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep. Awesome. So, I mean, just really quickly then, just to sort of wrap up, because we are probably touching up
something positive, something more positive.
Against
Robin?
time, we are gonna start with we're gonna end with something positive, as we always do.
Good. I'm glad.
And the answer to this can't be hide under the bed. But what would be your advice to people coming into the industry who lives in Europe, who might be listening to this podcast, watching this stream, who is an LGBTQ person that wants to join the video game industry? What would be your one sort of takeaway piece of advice? Rox,
don't let them bully you out. Like, don't let them bully you out. Like, it's one of those things for me.
Yeah, for me, it's like be yourself, take care, be sure the place where you are applying. If you need to relocate, be sure about what companies or not which companies, but which countries are a good option to apply, because they're how they accept the LGBTQ people, how it's their society, etc. I mean, there are some countries that for sure I would not be willing to relocate. I mean, I want to stay in Spain because for obvious reasons. But I mean, in case I would have to relocate, for example, if it's a country that has not the best fame, I would not even try to apply to companies in that country. Not because maybe the company is great, but if I am not going to be safe out from my job, it's like my workplace. It's like, okay, maybe it's not worth it at all. And it's hard to make that point, because it's like the game industry, to going into the game industry is like super hard. It's like you are very fucked up if you have to already close a lot of doors from in maybe countries that could be a good option to apply, because they are been doing the European Union. The relocation is easier. They could hire you if you are located in other countries. They don't require visa or these kind of things. But well, maybe the society is not the best there, and there are more possibilities of you be like bullied outside your job, being the victim from an aggression, physical or verbally. I would say maybe being yourself is like one of the best points. Also, remember to I mean, this is like maybe a bit controversial, but if your legal name is not your preferred name, sadly, I think that it's better in that case to use the legal name to present for the company, at least to avoid you are going to be hired, and but you have lied us with your identity, so we are not going to hire you.
Well, I think it comes back to what we were sort of saying earlier, that Nat was saying very much, which was be you from the get-go. Just be you. If they don't want you, you don't want to work there.
Be open and honest about yourself and who you are.
Exactly.
I mean, go down those legal routes as well. You know, like maybe there's something to be said, like, here's my legal name, but also in parentheses, like, this is what I go by. You know, just to put it up front like that.
Exactly.
Okay, so great conversation. I've really enjoyed today. We're going to move on to our final section. I know we're a little bit over time today, but we're going to move on to our final section, a little fun we like to do at the end of the show, called Show Me What You Got. So our guests have brought in an item that holds some significance to them. It could be something special, a game that they're looking forward to, a movie, or, you know, just something that they want to show off and then they can tell us about. So, Rox, show me what you got.
Okay, so I mean, I decided to take this but maybe I can go I can take other thing. This my lesbian. That's my lesbian.
That's so cute.
Adorable.
I wanted to ask: is that a pre-existing character, or is that like an original like plushie from somewhere?
It's from this is from an artist from Canada that made these kind of designs with like this kind of mythological animals, but with LGBTQ flags. I mean, that's one of them. There is also like a super cool trans dragon.
Yeah, I actually think now that you're saying it, I have one of them from the same artist behind me.
That's so cool.
So yeah, that's really nice.
Well, maybe there is other thing, and it's like that's my first baby, and I'm hoping to get like I'm hoping Enotria joins the collection physically at some point.
That would be very cool.
There you go.
Yeah,
That
that would be exceptionally cool.
Yeah, willing to Enotria to become like the little brother.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. I would love to see that. And yeah, and if that happens, Jyamma, you can always send me a physical copy. I'd love that. Right. So Nat, show me what you got.
Well, I already have this on my desk. And I don't know, sometimes little things like this make me silly and happy. And that is all it needs to have. Like, sometimes you just need to be happy about small things. And in this case, it's a pride knife. And I mean, it kind of doubles as a banhammer on stream. So it's kind of the reason why it's lying around here. But yeah, I don't know. Be happy about the small things, the small wins, because otherwise no one else is going to be happy for you.
I love that. You've heard of trans rights gets ready for trans wrongs.
Exactly.
You don't behave, you're getting the band knife. I love that. Robin, show me what you got, hun. What you got this week?
This week I have a plushie of Butt Stallion.
Oh my god!
From the Borderlands games and
what a
Tiny
name.
Tina.
Well, I assumed it was either going to be a Lego or something Borderlands related. To be fair, so
that's pretty much my life. And in the game, the majestic Butt Stallion vomits rainbows, and the plushie vomits a rainbow.
Yeah, queer icon, Butt
a bit
Stallion.
more dramatic than that, but yeah, Pride Month, vomiting rainbow, Butt Stallion. Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's
right, I guess I'm the only one left to show you what I've got. So, Robin, I actually asked.
Oh yes,
Robin,
Mia, what have you got? Go on.
Well, here's the thing. So it was part of like a test before stream for Robin to try and guess what I had, and I'd let him mull it over. So do you know what I've got?
I think the clues were it's Pride Month and I'm into it, which has a lot of
your as in your
going on.
Robin is into it, not yes. I'm into it.
And it's kind of, so I'm thinking Lego Pride. Is it the Lego Pride plaque with the figurines? There you go.
It is the Lego Pride plaque with the figurines. And now our viewers have seen this before. I've never showed it in a show me what you got section. We've obviously talked about this on the podcast when they announced it. It was part of like our news section back when we had a news section. But what's fun about this is that not only is this a physical object, but I played a lot of Fortnite, and obviously Fortnite now is the Lego mode. You can find this in Lego Fortnite.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
like
awesome.
Sometimes rainbows will appear, and if you go to the base of where the rainbow spawned, a little cloud will just be there, and then these guys will just be in this display, will be dancing on the cloud, and you can join them for amazing. A moment and like dance with them and take pictures. It's very, very cool, and it was just nice to like see that representation, just making it into Lego Fortnite. So excellent, that was awesome.
There's some really good. That's obviously in the kind of like the Lego approved format. There's some really good examples on the internet where people are kind of mixed up the bricks to make kind of patterns with the rainbow. So it's not just like a stripe that you can do them as diagonals. You can do them as kind of crossways. As punch on microphone with the excitement of it. And there's kind of like loads of different ways and means you can do it. But if you Google it, people have got it set up in loads of different ways.
Send me that, because like I feel like this needs a rebuild at some point. I mean, it's been sitting on the gosh darn side for ages. It's got like a dust buildup now, so I need to dust that.
Very good.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Also, before we wrap up, did you see that they're bringing out a Zelda Deku Tree Lego set?
Yes, I still
Yes.
haven't kind of braced myself from the Animal Crossing Lego sets that are coming out either.
I didn't even realize there were Animal Crossing Lego sets coming out.
It's Animal Crossing Lego sets.
That's ridiculous. Oh my goodness.
It's punishing.
Okay.
It's punishing.
Collectibles.
Yeah. Like my wallet is gonna scream at me. I don't think I can afford that Deku tree yet. I'll have to save up for it. Anyway, that's beside
I already have to bring
the
a
point.
new
This
shelving
is
because I got more Lego.
yeah. This isn't the Lego podcast. Maybe that's another one that we can do at some point. Yeah.
Yes.
That'd actually be pretty cool. Lego podcast.
Bricking it. There you go. That's the title.
Bricking it. Oh my god, that's great. Okay. Yes. I want to
copyright
guest on that one.
And everyone else.
Right. So a little bit of fun at the end there. Fantastic. And I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us on this episode of the Gaming DigiPride podcast. I hope you had fun.
Oh, we had.
Mm-hmm.
As much as some of the topics are probably not as fun, but hey, company always is.
Yeah.
Look, it's Pride Month. We have to have fun in Pride Month, but we also have to kind of bang our drums.
Yep.
And,
honestly, that's what Pride is about, right? Pride is a protest.
Yep.
Exactly as you're saying. Like we got to do it. We got to scream from the top of our lungs for there to be like positive changes, because like otherwise, what's the point? You got to do something good, you know. But yeah, thank you for joining us, Robin. You're gonna wrap us up.
I am indeed. And as Mia said earlier, we have so much live streaming content coming up for DigiPride. It's been going on for a couple of weeks already, and we've got 3 weeks left. So make sure to follow not only the Gaming Mag channel here on Twitch, but also our TikTok, where you see some fun clips, especially the clips that are starting to come out from last night's house party.
Oh, yes, that was fun.
Incredibly chaotic. But we raised £500 for medical aid for Palestinians, which is fantastic, and just solidly good work for all of that.
Just making the guests suffer for charity. It was a lot of fun. Yeah,
exactly. And of course, all these podcasts can be listened back anytime on all major podcast platforms. If you're listening there, come on over to the live streams or check it out on YouTube, and you can see the show and tell, and we don't have to sit here describing it to you.
Yeah, and hit that follow button. If you're watching now, hit that follow button wherever you are. Add it to your feeds. You know what to do. And I want to say one more thank you, of course, to our presenting partner, Jyamma Games. Thank you to them. And our sponsors, Devolver Digital and Wizards of the Coast. We're going to be seeing you next week with another podcast episode. And I'm back on Tuesday, funnily enough, to take another look at Inotria, The Last Song, with a friend of the stream, Dandy Floss, on our very special episode of Let's Go Gaming. Until then, don't forget to keep reading and watching Gaming Magazine. And until next time, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Happy Pride!
Goodbye. Happy Pride. Goodbye.
Bye.